Hi everyone, welcome back to my top 500 games, and we are continuing on from number 428, and this game is True Pinball. It's a pinball game. I don't really know if there's too much to say about that other than it's a standard pinball game. You have 4 tables, you have a high scoreboard, that's pretty much it. But the story behind this game is that I borrowed it from my friend from school, Thomas, who the story was, although this is kind of going back a bit further now, he got a PS1, or a PlayStation as I should call it. He got a PlayStation and I was jealous, and I eventually got one of my own, which was my granddad's, but I've told that story already. And every so often we'd trade games temporarily. And at one point I borrowed True Pinball from him, and I do remember playing it quite a bit, and I remember it had a certain feel to it that I can't really describe, and I can't say that this is accurate at all, because, you know, when you're younger, you're more impressionable about these things, but I kind of felt it had a sort of steampunky vibe to it, even though I didn't know what steampunk was at the time, obviously. But when I think about steampunk now, for some reason, I associate it with True Pinball. That kind of doesn't make sense, because when you actually look at the tables, one of them is like Surf's Up beach style table. You got one which is, I think it might have been called Law and Order or something like that, I don't know. And there was the Viking one as well, which I suppose could be steampunk-esque. I also remember vividly that you had the little mini games that appeared at the top of the screen. So like when you got the pinball into a certain area, it appeared at the top of the screen, and you had to dodge the rocks or go through the hoops or something like that, depending on the table. Yeah, moving on. Number 427 is Grand Theft Auto. The original Grand Theft Auto. Most people, in general, only played the original GTA for the cheats. It was that idea that, oh, it was funny. It was the original thing where it was all like, you can steal cars from people, you can shoot people, you can drive to wherever you want. It was, as far as I could tell, the first game that really brought that to light, even though there's probably something else I'm missing. But as far as I know, that was the big thing that sort of brought that to people's attention. At least to the people who I knew, it brought it to their attention. And everyone just messed about and used cheats, including myself. I do remember trying to just go around and just mess about as everyone else did. But I remember there was one time where I thought to myself, I am actually going to try to do what the game is about. So you have like these phone boxes, and I was thinking, I'm actually going to try to do these missions. And I think I might have done one of them, but I think there was another one which was really hard. I didn't know what exactly I was doing. I remember I had like this big truck that I was trying to park in such a strange way that it would cross over a bit of water to get to an area. And I remember I liked the main theme for the game, and I also remember the pickup truck music. I don't remember how it goes, but I remember it really stood out to me. And I remember later on, when I was in secondary school and I was talking to somebody about GTA, they just casually said, oh, the pickup truck music is the best. And I was like, yeah, I remember really liking that, even though I don't particularly remember what the music was. Number 426 is iToy Play 3. Now, I've talked about iToy Groove earlier. This is another game that my brother had, and obviously I like this better than iToy Groove because it's higher up on the list. It had a wider variety of games, and there was, as far as I could tell, there were 3 games in the main iToy Play series, and they kind of got a bit more advanced. But my memories of iToy Play 3, I suppose you could say they're a bit more hazy. I do remember the technology advanced a bit, but I do remember that during the Christmas, which would have been 2005 if my memories are lined up, Christmas 2005 when my brother got it, this was the same Christmas that I got I remember this Christmas because I got the first Panic at the Disco album the same day as well, so that's one of the big things that sticks out to me about that. But yeah, just like little games, if you don't remember what iToy was, you have a camera that you put on top of the TV, it's a PS2 game, and you start waving your hands around to like hit things and to mess about with things, and you like had competitions between different players. It was quite fun. Number 425 is a game called Echoes. This is one of those PS Minis which you don't really hear of them these days. I think they sort of phased them out, but they never really made a big deal of them in the first place, really. They were kind of just there. The PS Minis are kind of like this collection of cheap PS1 games that... Sorry, not PS1 games. Cheap PlayStation games that you could play on the PS3, but you could also play on your PSP as well. And I don't know if they added support for the Vita. I really am not sure about that. They were basically this sort of like this indie, like the indie scene was there, but it was more so than just the general arcade area. Like if you imagine the Xbox indie section, not the live arcade, but the indie section, is kind of like that equivalent. But as for the game Echoes itself, you basically had to, it was a top-down view, and you had to walk around and sort of like collect these gems that would appear. At least I think they're gems. I may be wrong. But I do remember you have to collect these things, and as you're going around collecting them, images of your past self that are walking down these paths appear, and if you touch them, that's how you get damaged or lose or whatever. You're supposed to avoid them basically, and so you have to see if you can go on, how long you can go on for without touching these past versions of yourself that would manifest the more you play. Number 424 is Formula 197. This was what I remember it to be, a pretty basic racing game that was on the PS1, and it was a Formula 1 game. I don't really think there is too much to say about it. The main thing I do remember about this game is I remember my uncle really enjoyed playing it. It was about the time I had my PS1 that my uncle used to come round every so often and play some of these PS1 games. And he was into the racing game, so he often played this. I also remember for some reason, I don't know why I remember this. I remember the Brazil track was really wide, and my uncle was saying to me that that's just the way that the Brazil track is. It's just really wide. And yeah, that's that. Number 423 is a game called Lionheart. This was an old Amiga game that I remember playing this game. For some reason I remember playing this game when we had just gone on a sort of family trip, and also bearing in mind I was very young at this time because it's Amiga. We came back from like this family trip, and I remember getting home before 3:30. And this was during a school day, but because I got home before 3:30, I didn't have to go to school. It was kind of like I got extra time off school at home, which for the time was just fantastic. As for the actual game itself, it's sort of just like a platform game, but it's got a very dark feel to it. And I remember in the opening intro, you have the main character transforms into this wolf or this lion or something like that, some sort of feral creature, and to me that was quite overwhelming. I was at such an age where this is the type of thing that could have scared me, but I wasn't particularly scared. I think I was just a bit creeped out by it. As for playing the game, it was a platformer, it was quite stiff, I think, and I remember you had like underground segments and you had to like climb these weird brown leaves that were just scattered around, and I for some reason remember I got to this point where you could fight these giant bugs with like giant green eyes or giant orange eyes. Sounds like something that would be quite scary, and it was a bit creepy, but I don't think I was too scared of it really. Number 422, and actually this is a bit of a cluster here, or is it a clump? I think the word I use is clump. Yeah, it's a clump. Number 422 is Flying Candy. This is a game whereby, if you remember, I was talking about Icy Gifts 2 earlier on. It's the same type of thing. you basically have a series of levels. You click on an area, and whatever's in that area of effect will activate like the abilities of the thing there, so you have to try and get everything to get all these points. And the reason that this is a clump is because number 421 is Icy Gifts, the original Icy Gifts, which is very, very similar to Flying Candy. I would say it's more similar to Flying Candy than it is to Icy Gifts 2, from what I remember. But what I did prefer about Icy Gifts, like the first Icy Gifts as opposed to Icy Gifts 2, is that it didn't have this extra shopping type extra stuff that it introduced into that I just wasn't fond of. I think they had a bit more creativity with the levels, because when you upgraded things, because the way that it works is you click on the screen, you activate like this area of effect, and whatever's in there will trigger, and you have to collect the gifts which works as experience, so you can use that to spend up points for leveling up the different powers. And so, for example, you'd have the green acid spill ones, whereby if you activate those, they will splotch like a puddle of acid, and then whatever passes through that puddle of acid for whilst it's there will also trigger. And you've also got like the lightning ones that tap outwards, you've got the explosion ones, the sort of like ones where it puts like a wave outwards, and so you can upgrade like the effects of all these, and you could also affect your click area. And I remember the level that I had the most trouble 100%ing was one where the screen was full of click bonus icons. So all these click bonus icons fly across the screen, you click on them, and then whatever triggers has a tiny explosion, and you get an extra click for activating these, and you have to get them all within so many clicks, and it was quite hard to line them up. But yeah, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's one of those types of games where it's really strange, and if you try to describe it to people, it seems weird. But the idea and design behind it is so simple, you'd think that anyone can come up with it, which is quite strange. Number 420 is Flight Control HT. I've got to speak properly. Flight Control HD. Why did I say HT? What am I thinking of? I don't know. But Flight Control HD. This was a PS3 game, like one of those downloadable PS3 games. It was PS Move compatible as well, which I actually have a PS Move, but I didn't actually have it at the time that I was playing this game, so I can't really say exactly about how effective it is. But the way that it works is that you have to draw lines. All these airplanes like pass by, and you have to draw lines to get them to land to safety, but you also have to make sure that they don't crash into each other. Again, a rather simple design, but it works. It works fine. Number 419 is iToy Play, the original iToy Play. Now, I know I was saying earlier that with iToy Play 3, it was like they progressed more as time went on. They added more stuff, and they did. They did improve upon the design, but this was the first one that we got. Again, it was my brother's game, but it was the first one that we got, and we had a lot of fun with it, and it was very basic. So actually, I remember we first played this, it was like on one of the displays in a shop, and we used to, like those like display cases where you can like play a game or something. It was like one of those, but with the iToy, and you could mess around. And this was about the time that we got the PS2, and so what had happened was we played this and we thought, oh, that's quite fun. And I think my brother might have gotten it for that Christmas. I don't remember, but we have lots of fond memories of that. There's this karate game where you're knocking the karate guys away, and I think the one that people remember the most is the window cleaning one, where you've got that "When I'm Cleaning Windows" song playing in the background. George Formby, is he called? I think. But yeah, and also what we used to do, which was quite fun, was we used to use the video capturing feature, whereby you could sort of record a video and then play it back. So one of us would leave the room, the other one would record a video, and then the other one would come back, and then they'd watch the video. And you could do videos up to a minute long. The issue, of course, is that you couldn't save them because they took up so much space on a PS2 memory card. It just took up a 1 minute video took up an entire memory card. So sometimes we would probably save like a 10-second clip every now and then or something like that if we had the space, but generally we wouldn't save these videos. We'd just do them, invite the other person in. And I realise that what I'm talking about here isn't a gameplay type thing, but it was just the fun memories we had of this game. Two things that I remember, actually, no, a few things that I remember about the videos that we used to make. There was one video where I used to try to reenact an entire episode of Bear in the Big Blue House in a minute, and I did a pretty good job of it. I have no evidence of it, but you take my word for it, I did a pretty good job of it. We also had like these teddy bears that we used to like act out like little sketches with them, and we used to pretend that they were like different family members and stuff. It was pretty funny. And there was one time where we just said what we did was we recorded a video, and this is when my brother was much smaller than I was because like I'm 5, 6 years older than he is, but he was smaller than I was at the time. There was a video that we did where we set the video up to record, and we just stand there blankly staring at the screen. He would be in front of me. We'd just stare at the screen and just not not react at all. And then we'd we'd click back to watch back the video. And be like 3, 2, 1. It's just both of us stood there in silence. I, I don't. It was really funny. I don't know if it sounds funny, but it was hilarious, and we couldn't stop laughing. There was also these kind of crazy effects you could do, where one of them I remember where you did something and it showed a sort of like delay on the screen. So you did something and then the video footage would sort of be a couple seconds behind, so you could do something and then like see it later on. So we could have it where it's like, okay, you close their eyes, you say to them, you close your eyes to the other person. You close your eyes, I'll do something. I'll then say blah to open your eyes, and then you can see what I did when you had your eyes closed. It's all sounds very silly and very childish, but we were children, you know? I was a young teenager at this time, and I know I'm going on quite a bit about this, but this is really something to reminisce about. But that's that. I am going to end this here. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.